There's a beautiful prayer in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that Lord Nrsimhadeva was very fearsome. It starts off, Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, Namastejas Tejase Avir Bhava, Vajranaka Vajradamstra Karmasayan, Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha, Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shrom. I'm sure we'll get a look at it. What's the number? 518.9. Oh, you also have it on the PowerPoint. And in this verse, by this is a verse, prayer to Lord Nrsimhadeva, and oftentimes that's it. We get to even look at it. It would be nice to look at the verse in the translation, please. 518.8. It's been a long journey, but we're there. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. So I'll say, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namastejas Tejase Avir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradamstra Karmashayan Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shraum. Try that again. Om Shraum. So I'll say the words and then you can repeat the meanings. Om, O Lord. Namaha, my respectful obeisances. Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narasimhaya, known as Lord Nrsimha. Namaha, obeisances. Tejase, the power of all power. Avirbhava, please be fully manifest. Vajranaka, O you who possess nails like thunderbolts. Vajradamshtra, O you who possess teeth like thunderbolts. Karma ashayan, demoniac desires to be happy by material activities. Randhaya, kindly vanquish. Tamaha, ignorance in the material world. Grasa, kindly drive away. Om, O my Lord. Swaha, respectful oblations. Abhayam, fearlessness. Abhayam, fearlessness. Atmani, in my mind. Bhuishta, may you appear. Om, O Lord. Shraum, the bija or seed of mantras offering prayers to Lord Nrsimha. Now let's look at the Sanskrit again. We'll chant it all together. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, Namastejas Tejase Avir Bhava, Vajranaka Vajradamshra Karmasayan, Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha, Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shram. And here's the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadeva, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Would you like to say it all together? Yes. Do we dare do this? Yes. We dare. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadeva, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Let's see if there's a purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4.22.39, Sanat Kumara speaks the following words to Maharaja Prthu. Yat pada pankucha palasha vilasa bhaktya karma shayan gratitam udgatayanti santa tadvannariktam atayo yatayo pirudha sroto ganasta maranam bhajuvasudevam. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet can very easily become free from hard knotted desires for fruit of activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to its fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus his strongly fixed fruit of desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmanyanavratam anakulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruit of activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsimhadeva, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlād Mahārāj, until Lord Nrsimhadeva killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsimhadeva, as Prahlād Mahārāj did in this verse. And so we find that this protection that we're seeking from Lord Nrsimhadeva has to do with protecting us from our own material desires. And there's much to be learned from the pastime of Lord Nrsimhadeva appearing in this world to rescue his devotee Prahlād Mahārāj. Much of it comes from the teachings of Narada. In the beginning of the 7th canto, or at least up to in the 5th chapter, we find that Narada Muni recounts how Prahlād Mahārāj teaches his fellow classmates the lessons that he learned from Narada. Now, this is quite amazing because Narada had known that a great devotee was going to be born in the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife. And At a time when Hiranyakashipu had left his palace to go perform austerities, the demigods headed by Indra came and took away the wife, kidnapped her. And they felt that they were justified in doing this because they reasoned that Hiranyakashipu had caused so much trouble already. What to speak of a son who might be born from the womb of his wife. So as they were taking her away, Narada approached them and said, "You're mistaken. There's a great devotee in the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife." And the demigods, knowing Narada to be the topmost devotee, accepted his words and released the wife of Hiranyakashipu into his care. He took her to his own ashram and cared for her. And at that time, he constantly spoke the Bhagavad and gave the instructions of self-realization to her, but also to Prahlad, who was within the womb. And this is Prahlad remembering to his student, to his fellow classmates, students at the school he was going to, what he learned while he was in the womb. So this shows the potency of transcendental sound vibration, that even though Prahlād Mahārāj was situated within the womb, he was receptive to the message of the Bhagavad and heard it within the womb. Therefore, those mothers and fathers who are producing children can know that by keeping the transcendental vibration going, even during the time of pregnancy, even before that, there's the Garbhodhan samskara in the Vedic civilized culture. There's a way in which children are begotten, conceived with a higher conception, that the parents plan ahead and keep themselves in very high consciousness before they conceive a child. And even as the child's growing within the womb, they keep the vibration going. And the proof is that Prahlād Mahārāj was able to imbibe all the teachings of Narada. So he's giving them to his classmates, re-speaking what he heard from Narada. And this is the process for coming to perfect knowledge. If one submits oneself to hearing from the proper authority, that means hearing from someone who has taken a dip in the ocean of transcendental knowledge in the disciplic succession. Simply by hearing, it's actually an amazing process. We may, those of us who have grown up in this world, look back and see how many things we've heard since we've been born into the world, and how many things we remember even from our childhood, things that we heard. The sound vibration goes in and it stays in. And switching over from whimsical sound vibrations that aren't for any purpose, that's what whimsical means, and deliberately listening to transcendental sound vibration will transform anyone. So now we can hear some of the instructions that Prahlād received within the womb and that he recalled to his classmates. And I'll just bring out a few of them. One of them is a very commonsensical analogy that Prahlād gives to his classmates, in that he says that a geologist knows where to find gold. How does a geologist know that? And why don't I know that? Freka, why?
Because they know like what to look for.
That's a weak mic. Give her a good one.
Because they know what to look for, and they know.
How do they know that?
Because they went to school and like learned it.
And they learned it? Okay. So there's a way in which a geologist might look at a certain place. My sister was a geologist, and whenever I'd walk around with her, she'd show me different rock formations and say, oh, this is what happened 10 million years ago. I was like, wow. And she was hired by oil companies for a while, and she would go around and say, yeah, it's probably in here. They know what to look for. They go and they look in a certain place, and they can tell this is where it is, because they're educated. So Prahlād says So similarly, when one becomes educated in the spiritual science, one knows where to find the spirit, and one can actually see the spirit. To that end, in the Sri Upanishad, we hear, Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupashyati. Anupashyati means that you should learn the process by hearing and by following the previous teachers, and you should systematically see where the spirit is. So you can see Shastra Chakshu through the eyes of the scripture, through the authorities, and you can learn to see the world in a different way. So Prahlād Mahārāj recommends that one train oneself in transcendental knowledge. The best way to do that is through the Bhagavad-gītā. One who reads the Bhagavad-gītā and understands the various workings of the modes of nature, and also hears from Krishna about the difference between matter and spirit, and understands very clearly that I am not my body, works and moves in the world in a quite different way than others. And although it looks like they're moving in the same way, because they have eyes of knowledge, their work is non-reactive. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad-gītā. Those who clearly understand the difference between the body and the soul and see the world in terms of its connection to Krishna, because they see this clearly, therefore their karma is burned up by the fire of knowledge. Gyanagni sarvakarmanam. So this is one of the very important lessons that Prahlād Mahārāj teaches us, is to become trained in the spiritual science. Don't neglect the Bhagavad-gītā. Or should I say it in the positive? It's better, isn't it? Because that might go in and think, neglect the Bhagavad-gītā. No. Read Bhagavad-gītā every day. How's that for a challenge? If one reads Bhagavad-gītā every day, then you won't have to make excuses for why you make mistakes, or why you made mistakes, or why you feel morose, or why you feel confused, and so forth. Because those who read the Bhagavad-gītā every day don't get confused. They see things as they are, and they see the difference between matter and spirit. And that's fairly simple. Let me just check. Do we have any Bhagavad-gītās? Just checking to see if we have them on site. Do we have any here at ISK? Yeah. I heard that we've distributed over approximately 500 million books since Prabhupada started book distribution. And we have a few of them here. Bhagavad-gītā is available. Do any of you have it at home? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Just checking. It sounds simplistic, but sometimes the simple things are the true answer. It's called Occam's razor. So if you take this challenge that Prahlād Mahārāj is putting out, and educate yourself the way a geologist becomes educated, to see the way the world's actually working and to find out where the gold is, then you'll never be bewildered. So if you read at least a chapter of Bhagavad-gītā every day, hear the verses and you go deeply within the purports as much as possible, then you'll see the world and find the great treasures in life and avoid the difficulties. Now, speaking of difficulties, Prahlād Mahārāj also talks about that. He says that a materialistic person, this is 7:741 for those who are keeping score, a materialistic person thinking himself very advanced in intelligence continually acts for economic development, but again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he is frustrated by material activities, either in this life or in the next. Indeed, the results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those one desires. Did you catch all that? Let's read it again. A materialistic person thinking himself very advanced in intelligence continually acts for economic development, but again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he is frustrated by material activities, either in this life or in the next. Indeed, the results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those one desires. Did the last sentence strike you in any way? In what way did it strike you? It happens all the time. So we'll read the purport. No one has ever achieved, now this is my favorite opening line in a purport in all the Prabhupada's books. No one has ever achieved the results he desired from material activities. On the contrary, everyone has been frustrated again and again. Therefore, one must not waste his time in such material activities for sensual pleasure, either in this life or in the next. So many nationalists, economists, and other ambitious persons have tried for happiness, individually or collectively, but history proves that they have all been frustrated. In recent history, we have seen many political leaders work hard for individual and collective economic development, but they have all failed. This is the law of nature, as clearly explained in the next verse. So it doesn't mean that you quit your job. It means that you have a clear idea that whatever comes to us in this world is by the Lord's mercy and arrangement. And this is something that Prahlad speaks about in his prayers. He said, you should see that any of the resources that you have in your life are a manifestation of Krishna. The resources themselves, the source of the resources, your energy to work, all these things come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gītā that you may work. In fact, he said you can't give up work and you should never renounce it. But you should work in a spirit that you're doing it for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in a spirit of detachment. And then he gives a comparison of a lotus. And he said that a lotus grows in the water. In fact, it's called pankaja. That means it's born out of mud. And then it grows to the top of the pond and juts out the top of the pond. And it resides there in all its beauty. But it's never touched by the water. How's that possible? You have to look at a lotus to see for yourself. It's in the water, but it's never touched by the water. So Krishna says as much in the Gita that one who is fully in knowledge can work in the world and at the same time not be touched by the karma that comes as a result of working. So this is good to keep in mind, because working to please oneself, Prahlād Mahārāj is saying, is a recipe for disaster. One gets the opposite of one expects. So yes, work, but work in the spirit of devotion and offer what one gets to the service, for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Does that make sense? Now, wait till you hear the next verse. Are you ready? Say yes. Say yes louder. Yes. Okay. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. Now, listen. You're not going to hear this anywhere else except in the Bhagavatam. You won't find it in the New York Times or the Washington Post. They're not going to tell you this. I'll read it again because it's such a precious verse. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. Purport. Every conditioned soul is bound by the laws of material nature, as described in Bhagavad-gītā. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Everyone has achieved a certain type of body given by material nature according to the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridasharjuna tishtati pramayan sarvabhutani yantrarujani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, is present in everyone's heart, and as the living entity desires, the Lord gives him facilities with which to work according to his ambitions in different grades of bodies. The body is just like an instrument by which the living entity moves according to false desires for happiness and thus suffers the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease in different standards of life. Everyone begins his activities with some plan and ambition. But actually, from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life of distress immediately begins. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel better. I mean, you don't have to try so hard. Do you want me to read it again? Do you like this? Or should I stop? Should I go to something cheerier for you? Keep going. You like this, right? Okay. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life, for one cannot do anything about them. Okay, so that's good news, right? Because as Prthu Mahārāj found out, this is also a lesson that is taught in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prthu was performing his duty, and he did it really well. He performed 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas. Was about to perform the 100th, actually, to be technically correct. And as he was starting the yagya, Indra, who had performed 100 yagyas, famous for performing 100 yagyas, became disturbed. Why? What was the disturbing factor? It's one word, starts with an E, ends with a Y. Correct. He was envious. So he went there and he disguised himself as a sannyasi. And this is where their bogus sannyasis somewhere in the world, and he started it out of envy. So he started stealing the horse, and the son of Prthu Mahārāj went after him, but he said, "Nah, he's a sannyasi, I can't harm him." And Indra did this several times, changed his dress, stole the horse, changed his dress, stole the horse, and Prthu Mahārāj became very disturbed. And at that time, he thought, "I'm going to kill Indra." And all the sages who were all the brahmanas were there, and they were performing the yagya. They said, "No, you can't kill him. We'll kill him." So they were performing a yagya, and the yagya, on the last oblation of the yagya, it would have sucked Indra into the fire as an offering. And just before that happened, Brahma appeared on the scene. He was the adult in the room. And he came there, and he appeased them and said, no, you can't kill Indra. He's the Lord's representative here in the world. So at that time, he gave advice to Prthu Mahārāj. Everyone needs advice from time to time, right? Don't we all say yes? Yes, we need advice. So where are you going to get it? If you can get it from Brahma, that's good. And if you can't get it from Brahma, get it from one of Brahma's representatives in the line of disciplic succession. That'll help. So Brahma told Prthu, he said, when something providential happens, that means you can't do anything about it. It's beyond your capacity to control the situation. Then don't try to get involved. And he said, if you try to get involved, if you try to change providential events that come into your life, then you'll enter deeper and deeper into the darkest regions of anxiety. And Prabhupada goes on in his purport to explain in that verse that even very religious, pious people have reversals of fortune in their life. You feeling better by the minute? Yes. So he goes on to explain that it's not our duty, nor can we overcome these anomalies that come unsought. They come because we walked into the wrong place. We're in a realm that is practically inscrutable. We can't understand how things are happening. We don't even know where we came from, how we were born. We have no idea where we're going when we die, nor do we even know when we're going to die. We're pretty much in the dark here. So when things happen, don't assume that you can do anything about them, or that even that they're bad. You simply accept the fact that they're going on as a result of some activity that I've done here in the material world. And if you do that and you tolerate, says Brahma in a later chapter of the Bhagavatam, te anukampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam hrit bhagvapurvir viradam namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. He gives the quintessential attitude that one should cultivate. Can we cultivate attitudes? Or are we stuck with the one that we got when we were born? Did you have an attitude when you were born? Well, you picked it up over time. It's not necessarily nature, although it has something to do with it, but there's also nurture as well. So we can change our attitude. And today's verse, and the verse I just quoted, Brahma says, expect that the Lord is all merciful, that He's actually helping us. And that when reversals come, understand that somehow or other, by my thrashing around here in the material world, I've caused some waves and they're coming back to me. And he said, if you go on like this, that is tolerating these things and expecting the Lord's mercy, then you're fit to inherit the kingdom of God. So, in this verse, we continue. Everyone begins his service. I'm rereading this last couple sentences because I have them marked in my book with a star. Everyone begins his activities with some plan and ambition, but actually, from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life of distress immediately begins. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life, for one cannot do anything about them. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Although one is acting according to false ambitions, he thinks he can improve his material conditions by his activities. The Vedas enjoin that one should not try to increase happiness or decrease distress, for this is futile. Tasyaiva heto prayate tako vido. One should work for self-realization, not for economic development, which is impossible to improve. Without endeavor, one can get the amount of happiness and distress for which he is destined, and one cannot change this. Therefore, it is better to use one's time for advancement in spiritual life and Krishna consciousness. One should not waste his valuable life as a human being. It is better to utilize this life for developing Krishna consciousness without ambitions for so-called happiness. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot of gratitude towards Prahlād Mahārāj in this teaching right now. I want to hear from you what you've heard so far. Which of these teaching sentences have touched you in any way, meaning that you found them either interesting or useful or life-changing? Go right ahead. Balaram. Right back here in the pundit section. Keep our pundits over here.
The point that you mentioned, that when you endeavor for happiness, that's when you don't have it anymore. And you said like the New York Times and all these other newspapers don't care about it. But actually, my economics professor, he actually said that if nobody has any expectations, everybody's always happy.
Oh, good for him. Did you sell a set of Bhagavatams? Tell us the truth, Balaram. Okay, so actually what it says is as soon as you start thinking about making your life happy, that's when the distress begins. And so there are some, as reported by Balaram, who have figured this out, that it's futile. Nonetheless, there's more to it. There may be, just hearing this injunction doesn't mean that I can stop my activities and I can give up my optimism for the material world. Although it is an important instruction, we also have to have positive engagement as well, which is something else that Prahlād Mahārāj teaches us later on. What else did you hear? Yes.
So the point I liked was that happiness or distress is destined, and we should just accept it and work hard to advance in spiritual
That's helpful, right? And that comes right out of the teachings of Narada. So he said it earlier. He said this earlier to whom? That's right. To Vyasadeva. Tasyaiva heto prayate kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam upariyada. Talabhyate dukavad anyata sukham sarvatra kalena sarvatra gabira ramhasa. So in this verse, in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam, Narada says to Vyasadeva. Who's Vyasadeva in relationship to Narada? It's right, he's his disciple, so he's got a lot of disciples, and he's teaching them everywhere, and these are recorded in the Bhagavatam. So he told him that don't try very hard for material advancement, because you have already started the momentum, and that's going to come to you in this lifetime. After all, this body is a result of what I've done before. And as soon as I'm born, there's a certain amount of happiness and distress that's going to come to the body. So he said, you can't adjust it. And at the same time, then one might think, then what should I do? Nothing? This sounds like a fatalistic kind of philosophy, but not at all. He says, on the other side, you can try for spiritual advancement, because that's something that is eternal. And that's something you can actually do something about. And every inch of advancement you make on the spiritual side is never lost. So that's an important instruction for one to keep within one's mind and heart, that don't endeavor so hard to adjust one's material situation, but do work very hard and adjust your situation in order to advance spiritually. And one of the best ways to do this, practically, is when we're making decisions in our life, make them in favor of our service to Krishna. For instance, you might come across circumstances where you have to move somewhere to live. Now you may then think, where should I live? Should I live in a place where I can live like a king, but I'm far away from any good association? This is a quiz, by the way. Or I live in a more simple dwelling, but I have access every day to sadhu sangha. So the one was A, first one was A, and the second one's B. Wow. Pretty good. There are more subtle decisions that may be more difficult to discern. But if one uses one's intelligence to see what's best in the long run for my service, this is one of the ways in which we follow the path of Sharanagati, which means the path of sixfold path of surrender. And that is accepting things favorable and rejecting things that are unfavorable. And if, as I'm making decisions, as I go through the different phases of my life, and will there be various phases in our lives? Yes. And will they involve making difficult decisions? Absolutely. And if we decide upon these various events based on what's best for my service, if you calculate on that, then you'll never make a mistake. Because even if you make the wrong choice, Krishna will make up for it. Okay, what else? 1, 2, 3.
In the previous verse, I like the point that a lot of political leaders, they make different plans individually and collectively. So it reminds me of one particular political leader. I'm not saying the name and place, but she worked very hard for public service years after years, and she tolerated a lot of unfavorable things from her spouse just to be like president one day. But lo and behold, all her plans of years, it did not work out. Somebody who's less qualified than her, who did not have any experience, rather become the president. So what is the point of all her plans? It's just useless.
This happened in India, right? So, yeah, to keep it abstract, what I think of when you mention this very important and far-reaching issue is that, one person might get elected, somebody else might get elected somebody that I like, somebody I don't like, and whether either of them happens, ultimately, nature's going to take its course. I mean, one might think like that there's bigger things in play, right? And the way it affects me and the way it interacts with everyone else's karma is chalked out to a certain degree. Therefore, let me plan out my spiritual path and continue on that without becoming too disturbed by the political climate, whatever it is, because that'll change. It'll rock back and forth from one thing to the next. Of course, one might say that Vaishnavas, including Prabhupada, started his own political party for a while, and then he withdrew it. It was called the Freedom Party, and he put forward Balabanta and a few others, maybe Rupanuga and so forth. But he saw that they were prone to getting more and more involved in power politics and many difficulties, and deferred to simply spreading the Krishna consciousness movement as a better strategy in the long run. The good point, and a good instance that we can all relate to. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Hare Krishna, Bhaktideva's West. It's a good name.
I was just reflecting on that sentence that you say is your favorite in all of Prabhupada's books. No one has ever achieved the results he desired in material activities. I was just reflecting on how in book distribution, sometimes we'll go out with our own preconceived notion of how the way it should be. And generally Krishna is very good at putting us in our place. But when we kind of just surrender what we think it should be and just do it in a spirit of devotion, the result is more than we can possibly imagine.
That's very helpful. That's a way to apply this in our daily service, and even you're bringing it into the realm of, as we're doing our service, if we depend on Krishna and say, I'm going to sincerely do my best to serve you. Of course, Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad-gītā, one shouldn't act whimsically and then offer the result to Krishna. Like somebody put salt in the Charnamrita and Prabhupada was angry about it, and they said, it's Krishna's mercy. And Prabhupada says, it's not Krishna's mercy, it's your foolishness. However, if we act in good faith and sincerely do our best to please Krishna and do our service, but leave the rest to Him, and don't be attached to the result. And we don't know exactly what the result is. As you point out in going on book distribution, for instance, as we're meeting people, sometimes when somebody seems to be not interested, there may be a far-reaching result that we're not seeing at that particular time. And we hear about it later from people who say, yeah, I told that guy I wasn't interested, go away, I hate Hare Krishna people, and then, here I am later. Thank you, very nice.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada uses the word different grades of living entities in the purport. So Radha Prabhu very nicely mentioned that in our corporate, when we work, we had different grades, like as you progress, like you go to the different grades in your career. So if you are supposed to move promoted to the next grade, and then if you're still working like for the lower grade, like your work has not changed, and you're still thinking that I will just work according to my previous grade, then you would get fired, or you are not. Similarly, that when we promoted to the human grade, we should know that it's not just for the sense gratification which is available in the lower grade of the species.
That sounds like a verse from the Bhagavatam. Like, Nayam deho deha bhajam nriloke kashtan kama marhate vidbujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyad yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. From Nrsimhadeva's instructions to his 100 sons, he says, now that you've got the opportunity as a human, look around and see that the animals get stuff for free. Free stuff's not that valuable. You get what you pay for. And if the animals are getting it for free, it can't really be worth that much. Use your logic and see. He said, if a pig gets it for free, then don't think it's that valuable. Go for something much higher. And what does he say to go for? Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam. He said, if you find out what are divine austerities, that's a good thing to know. Have in your little notebook and say, here is a list of the topmost divine austerities that I can perform. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam. He said, if you do that, you'll not only get purified, but you'll come to a stage where you enjoy unlimitedly. The material world, there's an idea that you can enjoy, but you never quite get it. This is another one of Prahlad's teachings that we can take away today. He says later in his prayers to Lord Nrsimhadeva, Kutrashisha Shruti Sukham Mrigatrishni Rupa, that where is it? Where is the happiness everyone's talking about? It's going around, right? People talking about it? Have you all heard about it? So he says, Kutra, Ashisha, he says, Shruti Sukham, it's happiness you hear about, but you never quite get it. You go to somebody's house, they invite you over for a banquet, and you're sitting in the, what do they call it, living room, right? And the kitchen's nearby, you can hear somebody cooking in there, and you're really hungry, and the table's all set, beautiful table right in the dining room, and you can hear the pots moving, somebody's in there, but it never comes. So Prahlad's saying it's like that. You hear about it, you hear something going on out there, but you never quite get the meal. No one ever delivers it. No one ever actually calls you for the real meal. You never get to sit down and take that thing that will satisfy your heart. So the secret that Prahlād Mahārāj is teaching is unlimitedly valuable. It's worth going door to door to tell people that, here's a secret. Tapo divyam putrakayena sadvam, by divine austerity, then you get purified and you can enjoy happiness which is unlimited. So, thank you. And was there one more? Yes, Damodar Prabhu.
I found this purport and the translation very enlivening, especially, and I was able to connect with yesterday. His Holiness Bhakti Anand Tirtha Swami was speaking at Stanford, and he was saying, the technology. How is technology good or technology not good for?
Turn up Damodar's mic just a tad, please. Thank you. Yellow mic. Better.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu.
It needs a battery. Give him a different...
Jai Jagannath. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So one point Maharaj said which struck me, and I can connect here also, where it said that the technology is not that bad. Like food is very good. It's so auspicious. But if we are over-consuming food, that's when the obesity or diabetic conditions come. Same is the case with technology, and I am relating with the planning also. Like as long as the plan with the right thing is there, with doing the actions and not depending on the results, doing it for Krishna, I think that's allowed. But if you are putting it back to how it helps in personal stuff, then the miseries start from point one itself.
Yes, and thank you for reiterating that point. It is not only allowed, but spiritual ambition is helpful because it's natural to be ambitious. That's the nature of the soul. Krishna gives a hint of that in the Gita where he says, Nahi kashchit shanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit karyate havashak karma sarva prakriti jairagunai. He said, soul's active. Active means desirous and ambitious even. And Prabhupada speaks in his purports throughout the Bhagavatam, he even uses the phrase spiritual ambition. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, talks about how one should be ambitious for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, for giving Krishna consciousness to others. Prahlād Mahārāj, in his prayers to Lord Nrsimhadeva, talks about his ambitions. They're different from the general mass, he says. He says, I feel sorry for people who are ambitious for improving their material opulence. He said, because it becomes a burden on their head. More and more they collect, the more and more they feel the burden. He said, but my ambition is to move into the big cities and towns, to be near these people and give them an opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness. So one can exercise one's ambition, not only could, but should. in order to be fully aligned with the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna. So that's an excellent point. We're not Luddites. You know what that means? We don't shun technology. It means that we don't stay away from any invention. Everything can be used. And when it is used in the service of Krishna, for instance, a printing press is a very useful tool. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who recommended, by the way, that everyone read the pastimes of Prahlād Mahārāj at least 100 times. Anybody up there yet? Srivas, getting close? At least 100 times. And obviously, he's advocating what Prahlad's teaching. He also advocated using all kinds of technology in order to broadcast the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So it's a matter of utility. How are we utilizing it? And what's our ambition aimed at? Thank you for that point. Ready for more? Yes. Balimardan Prabhu.
So we are in San Francisco yesterday, and there is a point in the Fort Mille where they went for team building, and the guy was saying, the land ends here and happiness begins here. So everybody was like excited.
The land ends here?
Land ends here. I mean, there is an end point of the land, the Western Hemisphere, in San Francisco, and there they said that ends means your happiness begins from there. So you,
when the land ends.
When the land ends.
What did he mean by that?
So that means that you jump into the ocean. The joy.
You'll be happy if you jump in the ocean?
You'll be happy. So he was technically joking on that, and I was translating myself. And you reflect the world that there is no happiness. You know, even though you plan, and all of us plan to be more happy, but the good part is that you meditate before you reach the journey, if you become happy, but when it starts, actually, all this stress comes.
I see.
So then people are doing rope climbing, they're falling
down.
So
just as Balaram pointed out, that this may be more commonly known than I was suggesting in the beginning, right? I mean, people actually know this, but then there may not be a way to act upon that and actually take advantage of the fact, because one who doesn't know what the positive form of activity is may then just shun activity altogether. And this is common, that people think that if I simply renounce the world, then I'll be actually spiritual and happy. But this isn't recommended either, because it's not ours to renounce. If I walk into the Wells Fargo bank and I declare that I renounce all the money in this bank, not only be ludicrous, but I may be taken for some kind of protagonist and be hauled out. So similarly, those who declare that I renounce this world, what is your right to renounce the world? You didn't own it in the first place. So it doesn't make sense. This is a kind of faulty logic. And also trying to enjoy it. If someone comes to your house and starts putting things in their pocket off your shelves, then this might also be more than a little annoying. And if I'm born in this world, I don't know who it belongs to, and I go around claiming that everything's mine. This is a point that the Bhumi, or the earth personified, brings up. If you read in the 12th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, she says that I'm observing all of these kings coming into the world, and they're fighting over me. And she said, to me, it's ludicrous, because I can see that they have a limited amount of time to live in this world, and they're acting as if they're going to live forever, and that the land that they conquer and then claim this is the new boundary upon is simply a temporary designation, and they spill blood over it. Then she says they're not even happy by conquering all the land. They want all the water too. I always found that interesting. In Denver, Colorado, for a while, I don't know if they changed the law, I heard they did, but there was a way in which there were water rights, and the water falling from the sky you could not take. That was illegal. In fact, you would be fined and severely fined if you were found catching the water from the air, because it belonged to somebody else. Somebody paid for it. So there are these conceptions that Bhumi says are ludicrous. Now, there's a lot of a lot of devotees here and some new people. So I want you to take 2 minutes. You can stand up if you like, and just meet somebody that you haven't met yet. Don't say hi to a friend, or maybe you've seen other people here before, but please stand up. Find somebody you've never talked to before. Dhruv is back there. He's brand new here, so, you can all charge in him. Just take 2 minutes. I'm going to come right back, and then we'll sit back down again. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, on your mark, get set, go.